Good afternoon. Well, today I'm giving myself permission to riff. I want to talk about some things, but I really don't know how to organize it, so I'll just get started. In the background is this teaching of the three bodies to remind you the body, anyway, I'm just going to use English terms, the body of space. I said undivided spaciousness, and then the body of energy, energetic enjoyment. Energy is kind of neutral, but it's energetic enjoyment. It's not energetic misery. And then there is the body of, we could say, transformative action. Or maybe, but I'll say this with some qualification, compassionate action or appropriate action. Now, so I want to talk about energy and space. But I want to first reflect with you a little bit on your view of the body. Now, we may all have our own views, but we can't, it's difficult to have your view completely separate from the culture that you live in, because you kind of automatically interact with that culture. And I would say in the West we have a pretty materialistic view of the body. The body is made of matter, and it's a substance, and it has solidity. Right? I mean, that's what you learn in school. It's a physical object. It's made of atoms and molecules. And when you hit it, it has solidity. It's like you can't just go through. Just the way this stuff is solid. But even, let's say we have this view, right? But then you take a biology class, right? And somebody says to you, well, the cells of the body are replacing themselves within 7 years. Within 7 years, I mean, I've heard this somewhere. Some textbook says that. I don't know if it's true, but I'm just playing around. Within 7 years, the matter of the body replaces itself. And none of the molecules in the body are the same after 7 years. I mean, so now I'm maybe confusing or using interchangeably solidity and stability, or something being static. You can't say the body is static or stable. Or then it depends on what we mean by stability. The body flows. And I don't mean just, yes, the body also moves in space. But even if it doesn't move in space, like zazen, it flows. Just materially it flows. It's not an entity, it's an activity. It's not substance, it's flow. I think we have to admit that even from our own worldview, scientific worldview. But now, so what we could say, that what is stable in the body, we're still talking just about the physical body, is a pattern. Because there must be some organizing pattern that organizes the flow. Otherwise we would just disintegrate. So there's some pattern, organizing pattern, that allows this flow to happen in a kind of regulated way, so that when atoms and molecules get replaced, they get replaced in the correct way, so that we're not put together backwards. So let's say the body is a patterned flow. So it doesn't sound so chaotic. And then, to weave in some Buddhism here, we make a big deal out of the idea of interdependence. But our worldview tends to separate the body from its environment. We recognize the environment. We say the body is in an environment, or this animal lives in an ecosystem. So the animals that we live in a space. But when you think about this material flow, it's like, where does all this exchange happen? This replacement of atoms and molecules, where, in a patterned way, yes, but where is it happening? It's constantly happening. It's happening with air, like we breathe continually. And it's happening with food and drink. And with excretion, is a constant, and the skin is constantly exchanging material. And it's also, while it's doing that, it's rebuilding itself. So I'm saying all this to encourage you to think of the body as a constant flow, a constant interdependent flow with its environment. And I think there's no question that that's the case. But we can experience ourselves as very separate. The space is out there, I'm here, it's like I feel disconnected. So somehow our emotional or psychological view can be very much at odds with what's really happening materially on the level that I'm just describing. Even if you try really hard, you cannot separate yourself. Now let's say you do this kind of practice that I suggested, where you, every time you notice that attention gets caught in discursive thinking, or turns to narrative thinking, telling a story about something, every time you notice it, you take attention and bring it to the sensations of breathing. This is a very basic practice, which I'm sure you're doing right now. to some degree or other, some degree. What you're creating, I would say, over time is breath attention. And I'm using this breath attention as because it's not, the breath and attention are not exactly separate. You're joining them, and then you find out that they can't really be separated. And to make this more practical or experiential, it's if you've gone to a body worker or some person who is working with you in a healing modality or something, now and then somebody will ask you to breathe into a body part. Right? This is pretty common now. Well, how can you breathe into a body part? I thought you were just breathing into your lung. What is that? How do you breathe into your liver? The liver isn't set up to receive air and oxygen. So it seems. Or to breathe into your left foot, But it's completely possible. So what is it? What is this breath attention really? Experientially. Now you can move your attention around in the space of the body. You can move it to your left foot, and then you switch. You put it on your right foot, or you move it to your ear. Attention can just jump around in the body and move it into your heart area. Right? You can do that right now. If you stop moving it around in the body, you can move it around in space. You can put your attention on, the pillar or the floor. Some object in this space. Attention can be moved around. But when it's breath attention, it has to go through a certain pathway. It has to move through. So if you want to breathe into your foot, you actually have to move the breath attention through your leg. Am I saying things that are too weird now? So let's say you're breathing into your belly, right? Breathing in, breathing out. And then you say, okay, so now I want to breathe into my right foot. Then what happens for me is when I breathe in and my belly expands, I'm letting this expansion go through my leg and arrive in my foot. And there is a kind of, it feels almost like the breath is pushing through the tissue of the leg. Now, the tissue is not really, experientially, the tissue is not tissue, it's not flesh. It's just a kind of space that has a certain resistance. Take away your idea of the body. If you just feel the body internally, what is there? It's a kind of space that isn't entirely empty. You feel something there. And what you feel there, you can kind of now push the breath into and through. Now, in East Asia, they have this concept of qi. And in the West, this is usually translated as energy, which has certain pitfalls, this word energy. If you know what you mean experientially, it's not a problem. If you don't know what you mean experientially, then energy can bring certain weird implications, like, oh, it's a physical property. Oh, it's, like electricity. Or, oh, it can be measured, it's quantifiable. Or it can be low energy or high energy. All of this is nonsense. Qi is a kind of dynamic, relational vitality. It's completely contextual and relational. It's in the presence of this or that, this kind of flow happens. It links breath, body, phenomena, and space. I've been practicing Qigong for about a decade, and I meet with my teacher, and then first I learned this system of exercises, and then he's an eccentric guy. At some point he says, let's do some Qigong with a tree, or let's do Qigong with a flower. And so then we're in a park, we're like near a creek, and he says, flower. Let me show you something about flowers. Right? So I sit down with this 80-year-old man, and we're looking at flowers that are growing there. And so from this point of view of qi, is like the flowers have a particular kind of qi that you can tap into. You can receive from the flower. But that's not how it is. We can speak that way, but it's not that the flower has something that it imparts. It's when you're in relationship with the flower, something happens that you feel. That's the qi of the flower. But it's not the qi of the flower, it's the meeting that produces the qi. It's a dynamic, relational event. And then you might feel something, like you feel it in your heart, I don't know, what there can even be the words for this. The sweet delicacy of the petal. And it touches something. Makes something happen. And when you look at an elk, I have these elk that are parading in front of my window up in the mountains. When you look at an elk, it's got a different kind of qi. It's not a flower. They are not pretty. They look like funny camels. Mm-hmm. And they look ratty. They've got this fur is not kempt. Which I like. They're kind of they don't seem to care at all. They're not concerned. Anyway. So it brings something up in me, and it might be different in you. It's not objective, in other words. But the fact that I can speak about it, the sweet delicacy of the petal, right? Yeah. You know this. How exactly you know this, I don't know, but you know this. You also know that you have overlooked this many times. There's this transmission story between the Buddha and Mahakashyapa where Mahakashyapa raises a flower. And the Buddha understands that Mahakashyapa has gotten it. That's the transmission. Now you can start to have an understanding that this flow of breath attention, chi, is there's a certain order here. It's like breath follows mind, they say. So let's try to understand mind as attention. Breath follows attention, and the body follows breath. But when you study it, it's kind of the other way around. Like, I'll show you a simple movement that's sort of a basic movement in the Qigong system that I practice. It's like you have your hands down here, and then you gather and come up to the heart. But you do it with an in-breath. Okay? So when you learn it first, it's like you just learn the bodily movement. And then you bring the breath together with the bodily movement. And when I first learned it, my teacher never said, notice what you feel inside. You're just doing the movement and you're just doing the breathing. But then, inevitably, you kind of have to notice that some sort of felt quality is brought up from down here to the heart. That happens inside. You're using the arms, and you feel inside that something is rising. Once you know how that feels, that which is rising, how that feels, right, you don't need the arms. You can just move attention. Because the body was just pulling attention. Because you're looking at it too. So when the gaze is always attention, related to attention. So when you look at it, you're moving attention, inevitably, you're moving attention up. But once you notice the flow that's happening inside, you can just move the attention inside, and the feeling will follow. And that's when it reverses. In practice, you may lead with the body, and the body pulls the breath, and the breath pulls attention. But then you can reverse it, and then attention pulls the breath, and the breath pulls the body. Like when I was advancing in the practice, right, then my teacher would say, let the breath lead. It's like, let the breath lead. What does that mean? What does let the breath lead? So you're initiating with the breath and you're letting the body follow. It becomes more subtly integrated that way. Now, this is very applicable in, your sitting posture is when your sitting posture deteriorates, It's like also called slumping or, struggling. It's not so easy to sit upright anymore. You could adjust your posture physically, like using some muscles, like pulling yourself up or pushing somehow, and you're just doing it muscularly. And the problem with that is that it's not integrated. You're just kind of telling these muscles to contract for a while, and then they will tire, and then the posture will collapse again. If you follow this idea that mind leads breath and breath leads body, you can have a mental, I like to call this think feeling. You think feel. The thinking here is the placing of attention and the moving of attention. So, for example, you might want to imagine a central column in your body. It's in front of the spine. It's not the spine, it's in front of the spine. And it's a column. Don't make it rigid. Everything is flow. Don't imagine a rigid column. But there's a channel. And let's just now say it starts at your perineum, where you're sitting on your cushion, and it ends at the crown of the head. So it goes up in front of the spine, through your abdomen, into your chest, through the heart. By heart, energetically, I just mean not to the left, not about the organ, it's just that heart area. And then through the throat, the head, all the way to the crown. Like that, there's a channel there. Now, you may have various sort of, what should we call that? Kinks in your body. Where it's difficult to move breath attention up this column, up and down. When you do it, you don't have to usually, you can breathe up and down, sort of move that up and down, but you could also just use attention and let attention move up and go down. Again, it's not like something you need to achieve, it's just an experiment here. So you start at the bottom of this column in the perineum, and then you move, maybe with an inhale, you move a slow inhale. You move attention up, bit by bit. If you have to exhale, you can stop, and then with more of an inhale, you move it up more. And there might be, naturally, some places there where it kind of doesn't want to move. Attention doesn't want to quite go there. That's a place where something wants to adjust itself. You don't know how. Do not ever pretend that you know how to adjust your posture. The body knows how to adjust the posture. You don't know. Otherwise, you would have done it a long time ago. So you actually use the fact that something isn't going there, is kind of like jiggling around, not knowing where to go. You're using this block to find out how it could go. You wait. You wait there. Whether something wants to micro adjust and let breath attention pass there with ease. If it's not going easy, it's not going. And sometimes it's just a little bit of a micro movement and then it can go. And that's a little adjustment. By the way, a little principle on the side. My teacher said this many times to me. It's much easier to make energy go up than to make it go down. And in sort of commodified spiritual instructions and stuff, it's always about like making it go up. The kundalini should rise, everything should go up to the crown, and then you're going to have this spiritual explosion and stuff. Yeah, be careful because it gets really imbalanced. One of the biggest principles is when something goes up, something has to come down. If it's not also coming down, you're creating imbalance. So something that's a kind of subtle integration that happens, and now maybe you can just listen whether this is your experience or not. It's like I'm just painting a picture here. If you feel that something goes up, it wants to go down at the same time, that's balance. So while you say inhale up through this channel, feel how it's at the same time grounding. If that's cut off, if that grounding energy is cut off, then it's imbalanced. You can do that as to be imbalanced for a little bit is fine, but to be imbalanced over a long period of time is not healthy. This column is very active, and you can feel it when you turn to the left. It can feel like this column is turning to the, like this is letting the body follow chi. It's like instead of turning the body internally, you turn the column, and then the body naturally follows. And if you want to turn to the other side, you make the column turn this way, and then the body follows. It has to. Once you know that inner dynamic and you can turn something internally, the body, you can hold it still, but it wants to follow. But the column sort of has two ways of rotating. It's like if it rotates this way, there's another part that rotates this way. So if it's going to the left, something's going to the right. That creates balance. So you're feeling this at the same time. It goes. If you go only to the right and don't feel this part to the left, is not quite balanced. In Chinese spiritual transmission stuff, this stuff doesn't get pointed out. It only gets pointed out in metaphor, and then you have to discover it on your own. If you don't discover it on your own, nobody is ever going to speak to you about it. And I'm lucky that I study with this American who says, I'm just going to tell you everything. So I'm telling you everything too. But the reason it's not said, but needs to be discovered, is because what they want you to avoid, what they want to avoid, is that you get attached to the concept without building the experience that makes sense of the context of the concept. Now I want to shift this idea to a little bit something else, to space. And I want to tell you a little story about an exercise that I did. It's called, anyway, the exercises that I practiced were translated by a Chinese person who didn't speak English very well. So they have weird titles. So this exercise is called thinking energy. But I think what they really mean is attention when they say thinking. And it works with both, all four extremities. And I'll just do the hands and the arms and the feet. You know, it doesn't work in a cross-legged position. So you put your hand by your knee like this. In this, the hand is curved like this. You just put it there, and then you inhale. And you put your attention firmly in your hand. And then you inhale to your belly and let the belly expand while you're doing it. Slow, long inhale. And the feeling that develops over time, maybe you can do this right now. You wouldn't touch your knee, it's just by your knee. Is that as the belly expands, there's a flow, because your attention is here on the hand, there's a flow that is initiated through your upper body, through the shoulder, into the hand. It's almost like, it feels to me like there's something subtly, the cells of the body are subtly pushing on each other all the way into the hand and into the fingertips. And it feels like you're filling the arm with energy. And you do it on the other side, and you do it with the feet. And you put a little bit of tension in the hand, or a little bit of tension in the toes. The toes just grab a little bit, so that there is a kind of attractor there in the hand and the foot. Anyway, that's how I experience it. So I was doing this. Actually, I was doing it with my, if I remember, as I'm remembering it, I was doing it with my left foot. And then I had this insight. It's like, oh, it doesn't have to go from the belly through the torso into the hand. It doesn't have to follow this channel. It can just fill directly from space. You put your hand there, put your attention there, breathe in, and you can just fill it from space. Now, if you have a substantialist view of qi, then you would say, oh, the space is full of qi, and I'm going to take it from space and put it into my hand. Like as if there's a subtle substance that's doing that. Okay, it's too metaphysical for me. I'm not looking at it. I just refrain from making this kind of concept. What I know is that I can experience a flow through the body into the hand, but I can also feel the filling without going through that channel, and it can just happen. That I know for sure. That's happening in my experience. What exactly is happening, I don't know. Like, I have no theory about it. Well, when you breathe into your belly, it's similar. It's like you might think like, oh, I'm breathing through the mouth or nose. That would be better. Through the nose. Through the windpipe into the lung and then into the belly. Again, that's already not anatomically understandable. But it doesn't have to go that way. It can come directly from space. You can take this breath energy, breath attention, you can take it directly from space and fill your belly. And you can release it into space. Now, something that was never taught to me in Zen, that I put together through the Qigong practice, is that it's useful to feel the other sides always. If there's a front, there's a back. If there's a left, there's a right. If there's an up, there's a down. If there's a front, which is the hara here, is in the front, you can also feel the back of it. In Taoism and in Chinese medicine, this is talked about as the kidneys, and the kidneys are very important energetically. This is the small of the back here. And the kidneys have some room in them. Many years ago, I saw this psychotherapist who's, a body psychotherapist, and I was trying to work through some issues in my life, and she looked at me, she said, "Your kidneys are tense." I'm like, this is a long time ago, and I had no clue about this stuff. I was like, what? My kidneys are tense? The kidneys are not muscles. How can they be tense? But the kidneys can be tight, let me call it that. Or you can make room for the kidneys. And this would be good to do. This is a very profound thing, to make room for your kidneys. Now, in our sitting posture, many people do this wrong. Like when they want to sit upright, they press their back, the small of their back, forward. This tightens the kidneys. Really, don't do that. You want the small of the back to have room to the back. And that means your tailbone kind of comes forward this way. Now, it feels funny to do that. It feels like you're slumping. Like if I'm exaggerating, it's like this. I'm clearly not sitting like this. But you pull your tailbone a little bit forward, and that opens the small of the back where the kidneys are. So it's kind of straight, but it feels like it pushes out. Energetically, it feels it pushes out. This is the back of the hara. If you're adventurous, you could, instead of you taking your breath from space into the hara, you could take breath from space into your kidneys. Breathe in through your kidneys. Fill them with breath attention. Over time, this unleashes a lot of vitality. The kidneys also have a hormonal function, the adrenals there and so forth. But this this is now Western anatomy and physiology and so forth, is we don't need that. We can just, follow an advice like this and breathe into our kidneys and find out what happens. But then, again, you could create these gates, right? You can have a gate like the hara is a gate where you breathe in, or the kidneys can be a gate and you can breathe in through the kidneys. But the thing is, you don't even need a gate. You can just breathe in through, you can let the whole body breathe in from space. And let it fill with vitality. Now that's something, if you get a sense of that, that's something that, if you're tired, do that. Actually, I didn't understand this way back when my Zen teacher said, you need to find a way to wake up in the midst of your tiredness. I didn't understand that it was something like this, is that you would, take in this vitality from space. Your whole posture gets vitalized by taking it in and releasing. And now, you're not experiencing a flow of atoms and molecules. As we established earlier, they are flowing too. But what you're experiencing is, let's call it energy. You're experiencing a flow of energy and a connection of the body with space. It's, if you have a view, there's interdependence, right? You can conceptually make that clear by saying okay, what I breathe in is air that the trees have generated, and what I breathe out is something that the trees take in, and so forth. This is all true. But you don't feel it when you just think it. So our job in this practice that we reduce to this sitting, strangely, is to feel interdependence. This is something I always ask myself, how do you feel it so that it is real, experientially real? And it's on that level that I'm trying to point out right now. And it's on the level of the flower. When you see the flower with soft, kind, and loving eyes, which means you're just making space for the flower to bring its quality to you. You don't have to. If you love it too intensely, you're squashing its energy. It's like, I love you so much. The flower says, oh God. But if you have a neutral, soft, receptive space, then the flower can impart its love to you. That would be more satisfying, I think. Now, maybe that's enough. What I know I said yesterday that I would say something today and that I didn't say, but I still know what it is. It's like, what is it like to maintain presence in situations that are, more difficult? So that's still in my mind. And something that's on my mind right now that I would like to say, but our time's up, is, but I want to point you to something that you maybe can explore for yourself in your zazen. How the body is not in space. But that how the body is shot through with space. Like right now I'm thinking the body is like a texture. It's like a weave. You know these weaves that are not so regular? Like some crooked thread that's like woven this way, and then some crooked thread is coming this way, and so the holes between the threads are kind of bigger than, linen already is like a looser weave than some sort of tight cotton, right? But now we're making the linen looser even, and the threads are not so straight. And so that's like a loose weave. The body is that kind of thing. It's a loose weave. And it's shot through with space. We say form is emptiness and emptiness is form. One way you can think of that is your idea of a solid body turns into a loose weave by inviting emptiness into it. Or maybe we should, emptiness is a kind of confusing word, maybe we should replace it with openness or spaciousness. You are turning the solidity of the form of the body into a loose weave by inviting spaciousness into it. And so the interior space of the body and the exterior space of the body are not different. They are the same space. It's just that where you think, if you close your eyes for a moment, where you think of your physical body, that region is just turning into a kind of loose weave, shot through with space. And there's a bit more density there than out there, but it's there's a lot of continuity between those two spaces. And when there is enough of that continuity, then you are in touch with phenomena. Then you enter into this relationship with the phenomenal world that is, traditionally you would say is based on chi, but again, think of chi as a dynamic, relational quality that connects breath, body, phenomena, and space. And what appears when those elements are connected, like what appears, that's chi. One last thing. You may have the idea that you should get something right about this, like it should be a certain way. I had this very important moment with my Qigong teacher where he was showing me something and then I said, well, is it supposed to be this way? Is it supposed to be this way? I asked. brickhead. And he said, well, it is the way it is. And it's changing. See, this is so profound. It's like, if chi is not something you have or store or discover or do something with to have power over something, if it's not that, like in a martial arts movie where there's energy fields and balls that get thrown around and somebody is pushed against the wall and stuff, chi as an action movie. They never in those movies they never look at flowers and look at the delicacy of petals. They always kind of like bump into each other. When you understand that this energy we're talking about is the result of a relational dynamic, then it just is what it is. It is what it produces out of whatever relationship you have right now. It can't be right or wrong. It can just be what it is. And it's changing means in another situation, it's going to be different. So all these things, like when I speak about the hara or the kidneys or the central channel, they're all changing. They're all in development. They're not some thing you discover and then inhabit. They arise relationally. All right. This must be the end of the riff. Thank you.